So, can you touch your toes? Are you able to follow a healthy diet and a good exercise regime? Did you sleep well last night? Do you have sweet cravings post meals? Let's find out the answers to all these health and wellness related questions. Hello, and welcome to yet another exciting episode of Zen Talks, conversations that matter. As you know, Zen Talks is a platform to ideate, inspire, and influence. And to build others up, we need to first build our bodies, look after them. So, to help us with that, I have with me a very special guest, Ishi Khosla, a well-known clinical nutritionist, columnist, author, and entrepreneur. She has been awarded several awards for her exemplary work in the field of nutrition, and she has also been felicitated by the president of the country and listed among the 25 most powerful women. So, thank you, Ishi, for joining us on Zen Talks.
Thank you. Thank you, Ruchira, for having me.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you here. As we all know, you're also a TEDx speaker and you've done such phenomenal work in the line of nutrition. So, how did your journey begin? How did it all start? Did you always want to get into nutrition or it just happened organically?
It was absolutely organic and something which I would trace it back to in my childhood. I think about all of 12 or 13 years old. I had just been fat and never worried about it. But somewhere I think there must have been some trigger, which I don't consciously remember, but it made me go through a change in eating patterns. I stopped eating dinner. I started counting calories and started reading up on food. And the more I was getting into this, the better I was feeling about those changes. I could see it was far more flattering. So it kind of changed me and my thinking about food and you know, the effect it was having on me, and the fact that we as a household were extremely food driven. There was a lot of good food and rich food and
like most Indian households,
whatever,
I think.
But all yes, and a bit more than that. I mean, everything was homemade. All the bakery was homemade, the breads and the cakes and the cookies and the ice creams and all the goodies. So they were all around me. The interesting thing is that I was the one who was battling overweight and obesity, but my brothers who were in the same household eating more than me were quite all right. They didn't have that problem. And I had as I say, it was a bottomless pit. I was always hungry. You know, I was ready from breakfast for another breakfast, and I was never really full. Mm-hmm. So net, what I started doing with myself seemed to be making a difference to my eating, my appetite, my skin, mm-hmm. my waist, looking better in my school uniform, and generally giving me more confidence. And that was probably the hook.
So that's how your journey began.
Yes. And I then decided in class 10th, we took up science in 11th and with biology, and most of my friends were filling up medical forms, and that's what I was also meant to do. But then I said, no, this is not my line. I am going to study nutrition. I filled up only one college entrance form, and that was it. That was the starting.
All right. So how do you think nutrition has evolved? There's so much of information out there. I mean, in fact, we are inundated with information. There are YouTube videos. Everybody is like a fitness influencer. It is so hard to decide what works for you and what doesn't. So how do you think it has changed, and what are we doing wrong? Because in spite of all these things out there, obesity is at an all-time high. There are so many lifestyle diseases. So clearly, in spite of the internet and all the knowledge out there, we're still doing something wrong.
Yes, Aruchira, I couldn't agree with you more. We've had a pandemic, and I always say now we have an infodemic. It's just so much out there, much more than we can chew. And yes, there has been a huge change in the way we are eating, the way we have looked at food, and the way we have been exposed to food, the kind of food that we ate when we were kids, and what our parents ate to now what we're eating and our children are eating, it's a huge change. So it's not only a change in the information, it's also the change in the environment. The food systems have changed, agricultural practices have changed. So it's become a fully industrialized sector, and that has been the biggest game changer in our I would say understanding of food and our bodies and what it has done to us, the entire impact of nutrition and food. So that's the food environment, and food systems have changed radically. To just give you an example, food earlier was just dal, roti, sabzi, and desserts, and some celebration foods and mithais. And then if people were traveling, it was something like junk food, etc. was beginning to come. But the breakup of food into nutrients, into calories, into proteins, into vitamins, and
now
this rich and that rich and this free and that free.
Yeah, true.
And the food industry then following suit with making and responding to that by making a fat-free or a calorie-free or a whatever, everything free sold. So it was cholesterol-free and sugar-free, and now it's all gluten-free, and it just goes on. So that mindset of reducing food to just nutrients and then choosing food according to that, and then the whole bunch of thousands and thousands of diets which came up. So it has been a very, very confused and a very different way of eating and approaches to food, which has impacted us profoundly and continues to do that. And now we are in the middle of this pandemic, where now suddenly everyone's looking at what's going in.
Absolutely. So how intricately is our diet and immune system connected? And as you mentioned, we are going through this, we're grappling with the pandemic. So what are the things that we can do besides, of course, taking measures to, keep ourselves safe? What are the immunity measures that we can take, or what are the foods that we can incorporate in our lifestyle to build our immunity?
Yeah, and so the connection between immunity and diet just does not need any kind of introduction. I think everyone realizes that who gets the infection and who doesn't, why, what is the difference, and who is protected, who is not. The difference is in the immune system. The immune system is totally dependent on what you eat, and or rather what you don't eat. So it's a combination of that, and the underlying phenomena which determines how efficient your body is, how in terms of fighting invader or becoming resilient, is the fundamental concept of inflammation. And if we eat foods which are pro-inflammatory, our immune system is burdened with dealing with inflammation rather than fighting and protecting you. So the whole concept needs to be anti-inflammatory diet. And secondly, managing your weight and your waist, because those are also, they increase the body's inflammation. So we must understand that more than 70% of the immune system sits in our gut. So what we put into our mouth, what is at the end of our spoon, is really what is going to be critical in determining how protected.
But what are the things that we need to adopt in our lifestyle or in our diet to build our immunity? Maybe 5 things if you could tell us.
So I think let's look at first the, food is typically divided into food groups. We talk about cereals, proteins, we talk about fats, we talk about micronutrients, fiber, and etc. So I think the important thing to understand is that we traditionally have been looking at food as the staples. We eat dal, roti and sabzi, and chawal and dal. So basically it's a grain centric approach to food. We made it protein centric. So eating adequate protein is first very, very important. And pairing vegetables with proteins is very, very critical. So having adequate quantities of brightly colored vegetables along with proteins, and I think anyone understands what is protein. And the cereal, which is the grains in the urban context, it is all the things that we talk about in terms of breads and pastas and noodles and pizzas, dosas, idlis, and all of those things are basically the cereal group, which needs to be eaten according to you. So the diet needs to be customized. So if you're fighting fat, maybe you don't need it at all. Maybe you need it only in one meal, or maybe you need it, so in a small portion. And depending on and selectively, sometimes people are finding themselves intolerant to certain grains, and maybe they need to be replaced by millets or by rice or brown rice. So whatever it is, not refined but whole grains in the measure that your body requires, and the number of times of the day will be according to your body's requirement.
All right.
It's a very simple thing to do, and one meal has to be dedicated to the fighters, to the what we call phytonutrients. Literally, it's PHY, but when I say fight, it really means phytonutrients, phytochemicals, phenolic compounds, which means all the vegetables, fruits, and the spices, and the prebiotics and probiotics and all of that, which are important to build up a healthy gut. So very simple overall description, and with healthy fats. Then these are the nutrients, and in the nutrients I must also add the micronutrients, which are critical. So for your immunity today, we have realized that vitamin D is one of the most important anti-inflammatory vitamins, and we are not, most of us don't have enough, despite the despite the exposure to sun, etc. So yes, even though we are, but we are not being able to absorb adequate levels. So today, with this more profound understood role in terms of immunity, keeping your vitamin D levels to 70 to 80, even 90 is a good idea. So ensure that you supplement, but under supervision, and also take adequate amounts of, say, vitamin C, zinc, magnesium, vitamin K, but do it under supervision, and omega-3 fats. So these are the fats which fight infection and taking very, very important immunity building tools that we have. And look at gut health. If you feel that you have chronic diseases, if you have autoimmune problems and things like that, then go into the gut and see what is not working for you. And if you have digestive issues, also then look at what you're eating. Today, we know that some of the inflammatory proteins include wheat protein and the dairy protein. So look out for those issues as well. So I would just keep it to what I call the 4 Gs: gut, girth, which is around you. Yes. Grains and glucose means sugars. Cut down on sugars, and foods which increase your insulin levels. So sugar and all the carbohydrates I spoke about need to be addressed. So unfortunately, no formula here, but just remember the 4 Gs.
All right. So tell me, you've actually written a book, a very popular book about how wheat is slowly killing us. So tell us about that, because when it comes to our Indian diet, we can't stay without wheat. We practically survive on wheat. And even though there's an influx of ragi and all these other flours like bajra and jowar, essentially in Indian household, there will be a lot of focus on wheat. So tell us about that.
So it's unfortunate, again, because we know that wheat has been integral to our diet for thousands and thousands of years. But having said that, wheat does have an immunogenic component. That means it has a protein which triggers our immune system, and this is the trigger is usually gluten, but there could be other parts of wheat as well, which can be a problem. But without getting into the details, we know that it is a known allergen. And therefore certain people have been known to react to it, and it's called sensitivity to that is called celiac disease. About 100 years ago, scientists have established the connection between several problems, autoimmune problems, digestive issues like diarrhea, constipation, reflux disease, joint pains, and skin problems, mental issues, neurological issues, depression, schizophrenia. A lot of these things have been associated to people who with people who have celiac disease. And celiac disease is an autoimmune condition in itself, and the connection was made, and today we have very good tools to detect celiac disease. But it's very tough because sometimes there are no symptoms at all. So it's pretty much like the virus. It has a very diverse spectrum of presentation. So somebody may be asymptomatic, somebody may be full-blown symptomatic, somebody may have digestive symptoms, somebody may have symptoms outside the digestive system, in the gut, beyond the gut. So it could be hair fall, it could be epilepsy, it could be just simple common things that we experience every day, but they could be associated with wheat sensitivity. So this, apart from this, today we know that in the absence of celiac disease, also people who do not test positive for celiac disease can still have the same problem and suffer the same symptoms, and the cure is in removing this inflammatory protein. So for instance, if you have polycystic ovaries or if you have infertility, so you may not have celiac disease, but wheat somehow is the core culprit in creating that problem. So it is causing inflammation. Now, who are those people? Probably with a genetic predisposition. So all those people, say, who have a thyroid problem or a problem with inability to lose weight or gain weight, or chronic issues basically, or even heart disease or diabetes, juvenile diabetes, or even adult diabetes. These are problems which are coming from inflammation. And the trigger here is perhaps wheat and some other proteins as well. So that is what we call non-celiac wheat sensitivity. And if somebody has that suspicion, then just do a test or eliminate it yourself for a few days and then see how you feel.
But if not wheat, then what do we replace it with? What is the replacement?
So, Ruchira, India is a treasure of alternative grains. And I don't think any other country in the world offers so many alternatives. So the grains that you are given when you are doing the Navratra fasts are all alternate grains. And then we have all the millets, like you said, jowar, bajra, ragi, little millet. There are about 10 or 15 varieties of local millets which are available. And then we have rice in so many forms. We have black rice, red rice, and brown rice, and so many new varieties are also entering. And today we are growing quinoa and other grains in our country. And of course, we also have pulses and lentil flours. We have besan and we have chane ka atta, and so many other flours which are possible. Yeah, we have tons and tons of options. Yeah.
Oh, right. But clearly, as you said,
2023 in India is the year of the millets.
All right. That's interesting to know. Thank you for all that insightful information. But coming to the main concern that everyone has is that everybody wants to lose weight. And the sheer number of available diet plans make it very difficult to get started or do the right thing. So what do you think is a suitable, sustainable, and effective diet to follow for people like us who are stuck at home, or safe at home, actually, not stuck at home, but while we are at home, working from home, and also for growing children, teenagers, young teenagers who are bound to a screen all day. So what are the kind of diet plans that we should follow for adults to maintain weight and for growing children to, help them grow?
In fact, so let's get down to understanding why we are still struggling. Because we are not going down to the root cause. We are always fighting with our willpower. We all know that, okay, this one has so many calories, this bread has 70 calories, and this burger has 400 calories, and this cola has... So it has failed us miserably. This approach of calorie counting was a tool for people who are experts in nutrition. This is a tool for us not for the public. The public needs to be far more competent before they are given these tools. It's like, giving a tool to a novice. It's not going to work. You need to be trained and getting a perspective and context to the science before you start applying it. And therefore, it's gone horribly wrong. If I give you a diet of 1,000 calories or 1,200 calories, and I put, absolutely junk, I can put any burger, and I can put soda, I can put my favorite chocolate cake or ice cream in that 1,000 calories very smartly, but not going to do anything to you. Absolutely. So what those calories are, so this equation of calorie in and calorie out is totally out of order. This is not this regulation of this is not going to lead to a solution, to the cause, and therefore that's not the solution. Simple. The first P stands for proteins. So proteins twice a day at least. Correct. And pair your proteins with vegetables. And when I say proteins, let me also emphasize, what do I mean? For those who are vegetarians, it means all the lentils, legumes, protein-rich vegetables, and sprouts and chanas and basins, everything. And then it may be dairy or may not be dairy, depending on who you are. That's case to case. So it's not for everybody. Some people who can't lose weight are just dairy sensitive. So that may be something out of this. But if you're okay with it, surely you can have it and include it in your proteins. And then if you have animal protein, eggs, fish, chicken are all there for you. So 2 meals which are rich in proteins are great. And then you pair them with whatever vegetables. So an egg with a fruit or a vegetables with it. A bowl of dal, lentils at lunch, or or a bowl of sprouts with salad is a second protein. And the third meal can be just vegetables or just something. So 1 meal of protective foods. So proteins, and the second meal is protective or protect, which means 1 meal of just say a soup and salad, or it could mean just fruits or a combination of any of these. Or it could just mean a glass of milk with fruits, depending on whatever your reality is. And then the grain, like I said, has to be selective, and the amount has to be according to what is required for you.
For each person.
Very, very simple. And you eat fats in the quantity which you like to. You don't have to worry about it.
All right, and that's good to know.
So that's the third P. Yeah, and the third P is planning. Don't just get into a situation and say, oh, I didn't know, and therefore I ate whatever was there. There was nothing for me. Don't do that. There was nothing for me means you didn't plan. So you need to plan your day like you plan your clothes and your appointments and your meetings and your time.
You plan
Ensure that you, when you plan your food. When you're gymming, when you have to have your post-gym or post-workout snack, or when you want your meal, when are you going to be? So, and what time you eat is also very important. So make sure that that's a part of the planning, right? So don't eat beyond 7 o'clock if possible. And if you do have to eat beyond 7, then make sure you make the right choices. So it's simple. So it's a 3P formula. Actually, all of this is in my book, is Eating at Work. It has all these components, and people who want to read more can get.
All right. We'll definitely get a copy of that. But just before we wrap up and go to a rapid fire, what about children at home, growing teenage children? What would you advise parents to incorporate in their diets?
Very simply, what we call the rainbow diet. And also parents need to surround the children with the right kind of food. There's no way that if you're going to be ordering in and ordering,
they won't be eating that.
And to tell the child to eat. Yes. So importance of vegetables and fruits has to be inculcated in the household itself. Yes, your child doesn't like vegetables, but it doesn't mean that he
doesn't have
is
them.
Not given vegetables. There has to be, yes, it has to be. So easy access, and you become role model. You take them shopping and you involve them in food decisions and make smart choices. And don't ever tell a child, oh, he doesn't eat this, because then it becomes like a permanent, because children will eat today or tomorrow with kids, they have to eat. And if you find, if there is a red flag which parents need to be aware of, is if the child is not growing, in terms of either in height or is looking pale, or is any change in behavior, or any kind of change in appetite, These are checks. Even if your pediatrician has not asked you to get them done from time to time. Once in 6 months, track the hemoglobin and track the vitamins, track the age. All of this really can be corrected. And the first 2 years of life are very, very critical. We call these the 1,000 days in a child's life, which can make a difference between being healthy or unhealthy. So that's what I would say.
Thank you, Ishi. That was very, very informative, and there was a lot of interesting insights over there. But now, before we wrap up, just 2 questions. One is that what is the advice you'd like to give young girls who want to get into the science of nutrition or who want to take the path that you have? What is the kind of advice you'd like to give them?
Well, if they are interested in the subject and they are passionate about it, there are several institutions which offer courses in foods and nutrition. There are undergrads, there are graduate courses, there are postgraduate courses, there are diploma courses. And today it's all available. Easy information is there online.
And someone who's been an icon for you, who's inspired you all your life?
Several people in different ways. So if there was one person, I would just say my parents.
That's wonderful. And what's your favorite series that you're watching on any of the platforms, or favorite movie?
I've been watching The Queen, of course, but reading a book recently, which is very, very fascinating, by Lustig, The Hacking of the American Mind.
All right.
And it's a lot about food and pleasure and happiness, and currently I'm reading that.
All right. And being a nutritionist, and you've studied so much about food, what is your pick-me-up food?
My cup of tea
All right.
and nuts.
That's a healthy choice. I mean, maybe not the tea so much until it's green, but the nuts are definitely healthy. Great. And what's your favorite holiday destination?
Yeah, my cup of tea is quite healthy.
All right.
It has honey, it has coconut milk.
Mine has milk and sometimes sugar. All right. Okay. But what is your favorite holiday destination?
I just fell in love with Moscow and St. Petersburg. So
all right.
I would say that.
Okay. And 3 things that no one knows about you.
No one knows about me.
Yes, 3 things no one knows about you.
that I'm really not as serious a person as I appear to be. And I have a very childlike heart, and I would say I'm very simple, and I don't take things too seriously.
That's good. That's the best way to live. All right. Okay. And anyone you think needs a serious diet makeover, someone whom you would like to give a diet?
I think what I would say is anyone who looks pregnant and is not pregnant.
I'm sure that's many of us, but that's a good answer there. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Ishi. It was lovely talking to you, and you shared some interesting insights about diet and nutrition. And thank you for being with us on Zen Talks, and thank you all for watching.